Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Heavenly Chats. I'm Emma
And I'm Chloe,
and we're back with more
Q&A.
Q&A
This
questions.
is going to be part 2. This is I feel like these are the more specific questions. Last week was the broad, basic, like how to build a godly relationship, and like our non-negotiables. But this is going to be more intricate, maybe more specifics. We're going to let it rip.
Yeah.
Guys, it's 8 a.m. I'm never
gonna be
so hungry
today.
Emma came from her workout.
I literally left 15 minutes early. I was up at 5:50 this morning. We're a little bit tired.
We're ripping it. That's my whole motto for the day. I have like the craziest day of my life. I've had the craziest month of my life. It just keeps getting crazier. Every week we're like, oh, it was a crazy week.
Mm-hmm.
It is yet to be not a crazy week. So
Yeah.
anyway, we're here. Okay, let's pray into this. I can pray, your brain probably hurts. Lord, I want to thank you for bringing Emma and I here together. Upon all circumstances, we're still here to spread your glory and just share your word and your goodness. Lord, I pray that we can help answer these questions for the women, and I pray that it is you that speaks through us, not us, and we do this for the good of you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, so the first question we are going to talk about is, actually, let's just start right here.
Okay.
How to stop comparing your relationships to friends, social media, just other people in your life. This is a hard one because I never did this growing up, but I think the older you get, the more I've almost wanted to compare. I'm like, I don't know if it's the enemy in my head being like, oh, your relationship isn't this, but we're wired as human beings to honestly like compare. It's like almost like it's a way of like safety and security and protection. Like we're wired to always be on the lookout. And so I think by doing that, we're always like looking at other relationships, other people, in not necessarily like a harmful way, but it ends up being harmful, you know?
Yeah, I think the human brain, I mean, obviously things are trending because of comparison, or certain workouts are trending because, oh, I want to look like this, or I want to eat this so I look like that. It's like, it's all an evolution of society and the way that happens. So like, the best thing that you can do is just know that you don't fully know what's going on inside of that relationship that you're comparing yourself to, because you don't know really what goes on. Not that it could be bad on the other side of it, but you have things in your relationship that they probably don't have, or vice versa. Like there's nothing that you can do that's going to be able to make your life their life. And if God wanted your life to be like theirs, then it would be.
That like just fired off like multiple things in my mind. But one, it's like no relationship is perfect. And if anyone says it is, I feel like they're either blind or they're lying. Like there is going to be difficulties, but I think there's beauty in that. Every difficulty Kyler and I have went through in our relationship ends up growing us better and stronger together. So we look at it as a positive rather than a negative. Obviously, if you're having a lot of issues and it comes to a point where it's unhealthy and like toxic, I mean, there's like a fine line between that. But I'm saying when there's like a situation you're able to compromise and work together, like it's taught Kyler and I how to like better each other and better relationship. Another thing is, again, kind of like Emma said, like every relationship is going to have its own unique battles and situations. So one, you can't compare like, oh, like, because Emma and I will like talk to each other. We're like so close that I go to her for advice in dating, vice versa. It's kind of funny just because she's dating my brother. She knows Kyler. Like we're super close. So our dynamic and situation is unique just because she knows, like I know Jake so well, you know Kyler so well. So it helps, but it also can be like she can still have those same blind spots that I may have. But then also too, I just think talking and communicating is important. But again, I don't remember where I was going with that. But another thing is, it's like we still don't always communicate every single problem that's going on. So it's like I can be comparing my relationship to Kyler or Jake and Emma's, but it's like I still don't know every fine little detail. Even though me and Emma talk a lot and I'm with them a lot, I witness a lot. It's like there are still details that we still don't know. And I think that's important. Like you shouldn't be pouring out every detail of your relationship, even to your best friend. But you have to just understand there's a lot beneath the surface that maybe they haven't even uncovered, but it's like you just can't assume like, oh, my relationship isn't as strong and isn't as healthy as somebody else's, because you're meant to serve each other in a specific way.
Yeah.
And you just have to lead with that.
Yeah. Um, Comparing anything to anything just is not.
It's like sinful. I mean, like jealousy is the root of all evil, and it's idolizing something if
Yeah.
you're focused on like comparing.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe get off social media if that's what you need to do,
Yeah.
or not like unfollow those people, but just like get away from it. I mean, I don't know what part of certain relationships you're comparing to, but like you're gonna know when something isn't up to what you want it to be. Like if you're comparing someone's godly relationship on social media versus yours, like unequally yoked relationship, like you're gonna know at what point like you've realized that this isn't like what you're supposed to be doing or the person you're supposed to be with. Different situation, but like small little things or whatever. Like everything on social media is like a highlight reel. Nothing about it. Like it's all real, but it's not real like that 100%
It's only
of the
showing
time.
a good 10% rather than like the, not that it's a bad 10%, but they're not showing just like the average bits of their relationship either. They're showing the cute moments of them twirling around and dancing or laughing or on a cute date night, but they're not showing the nights where they're just chilling on the couch or maybe one's unhappy or, you know, they're not showing the other maybe bland bits of the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if that helps anybody.
Yeah, no, I think that's good too. And it's easy to be like, oh, I'm not getting this. Like Emma and Jake do this and this and this. I'm just using us as a comparison because, oh,
you're good.
It don't make sense. But it's like, if those aren't things that I'm seeking and needing out of a relationship, like why am I making it such a big deal and so important? Like if that wasn't something I led with at the beginning in my relationship, being like, this is a like a need. There's going to be wants and we can't get everything we want. Okay. We can't serve each other 1,000 and 1,000,000% all the time. Like we have other lives, we have other responsibilities and relationships. Like I can't devote 110% of my time to Kyler. And so it's like, he fulfills what I need. And then he can sprinkle in the wants, like he wants to give me that. But again, it's like, he still has to serve himself. He still has to serve his like friends and his community and the Lord. And like he has other areas to pour into. So I can't expect him to pour into me all the time. So I think a lot of times we end up getting greedy in relationships because I'm like, oh, I want this, this, and this. But I'm like, I'm forgetting all of the needs that he is fulfilling. And so we feel more empty than we should. So I guess you need to go in with like a more grateful mindset in your relationship. Again, if there's a feeling that he's not or she's not like fulfilling a need that you need and they can't do it because they are pouring in other areas and you're like, I'm sorry, I'm stretching myself so thin. Like I can't serve you in this way. And if you need it, maybe that's a sign you need to like step away from the relationship. But again, it's like, it's easy to compare and be like, oh, they go do this and this and this. But if you guys have a budget and it's like, yo, we're planning for the rest of our lives right now. We're saving up. Like that's okay. But like, stop thinking that you need something that really is a want.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's going to ruin you. And that's how the enemy gets in your head. And it's like, you're not doing this, this, and this. But if you just take a second and be grateful for what he is doing and you are doing and how healthy your relationship actually is and what's important, like all the glamoury bits aren't what's, I feel like, important. That's not the solid foundation that you're looking at. I mean, think of a house. The most important part is the solid foundation. That's probably a slab of cement. That's not pretty. That's not glitzy. That's not glamorous. But all of the outside parts that you see, all of like the pretty siding and the decorations and whatever, like that's the part that you see. But are any of those like a need in a house to keep it structured and sound? No. So it's like, stop looking around at all of the pretty fancy extra things that people may want and get and neglect like the foundation. Because if that beautiful house isn't built on a solid firm foundation like we talked about last week, like it's going to crumble and fall and none of that's going to matter anyways. Yeah, that was a pretty good analogy for 8 a.m. I'm not going to lie. That just randomly came to me. Anyway. Okay. Question number 2.
No, that's a good one.
How to tell if you're being self-centered if what you were asking for in a relationship is valid. So this kind of bounces off what we were just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, these are all hard because we're getting like one side context of like the person's question. So I don't know what you want in this relationship that you're not getting, that you feel like it's a selfish thing that you need. Like,
if you feel that it might be selfish though, it might be selfish. Like that might be God trying to like speak to you and be like, where is this deriving from? Is this like an ego thing? Is this a pride thing? Is this rooted from jealousy and comparison thing? So maybe like sit in a moment of like prayer and stillness and just like ask God to like unveil that
Yeah.
and really like speak to you and give you clarity on this desire, if it is self-centered or if it is actually a need that you like deeply need.
Yeah.
I guess too, you can ask yourself, like, if I didn't have this from anyone, would I like be able to move on? Because that might be something you need to like fill that void yourself. You know, if I don't know exactly what it is, but if you're asking this from somebody and you feel like it's selfish, maybe it's something you should just try to give yourself, you know?
Or, yeah, like anything that you're missing, technically God can fulfill.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know what it is. You obviously know, like I said, when enough is enough, or when you've asked and you don't receive that thing, or whatever it is. Like, we don't really know the situation, but maybe just really sit down and be like, okay, why do I feel like I need this out of this person?
Yeah.
And come to a conclusion in your brain, like, oh, this is why, or oh, that's why, or whatever. And like talk to them about it and see like what they have to say.
Yeah.
Communication is a good, healthy thing. Yeah. So
yeah,
I would try that.
Yeah, for sure. And if that question is stemming from somebody telling you that you're being selfish, that's like a whole nother conversation too, because that might be something they need to work on. Yeah. It's really complex. My stomach's growling. This is so great. But I would just really pray about it and try to get to the root of that desire, because that will give you all the answers you need. I think sometimes we forget to just take another step deeper into it, or maybe 5 steps deeper into the feeling, the emotion, the desire, and be like, why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
Why am I thinking this way? Yeah. Because it stems from something. There's a root for something. And again, too, we all have unique paths in childhoods, and that's where our needs and our desires are created based on our childhood and what we were given and what we weren't given and what we saw and what we didn't see. Yeah. It also makes us unique. God puts us in every situation for a reason, but it's important to like reflect back and make sense of those different feelings and thoughts.
Yeah.
I will help you understand your partner as well too, knowing like their past and how you can help serve them, because they're going to need different things depending on their own past as well.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
How could I be a more godly woman for my man?
This is like the most asked question.
Yeah.
I feel like
every woman is like always striving to be this, especially when you're pursuing the Lord. Like that's, and I feel like the older you get and the stronger you grow in your faith, the more this question is like burning inside, because you want to be able to fulfill that for the Lord and for your like future spouse.
Yeah, I think before you try and find someone that is a man of God, you have to first like have your own faith as it is, because I feel like you can't grow, like you can, but you can't fully get to your max potential like with fully someone else. Like it should just be you and God, and then it should just be him and God, and then it should be you guys together with God. Yeah. Is like what I think, but everyone has different paths and different testimonies, so like who am I to say or judge or whatever. But I also think a lot of this starts like with the man too. Like I feel like you can't fully be like a godly woman and like be submissive or whatever.
Yeah. If you don't have a man lead,
if you don't have him in exact steps with the Lord as well. You know what I mean? Like, or else you're going to end up taking on that role, and that's not the way that God wanted it to be. And like I've been in that situation in the past, and it's like it just doesn't feel right. It's not right. It's not how it's supposed to go. So if you guys are like in the journey together, I hope that he is leading you and like pursues that almost more than he pursues you in a way, because like that is like healthy.
Yeah.
But to become more of like a godly woman, like there are things that you guys have to work on together. Like it's not necessarily just you. Like you have to be like, okay, if I'm gonna be less controlling or less like plan oriented or less leader, like you need to be able as the man to take that on for me to be able to be like in my feminine as a girl. Chloe's stomach is having
oh my gosh.
And that's something that like is kind of a hard conversation if like the guy isn't in that position to do that. And like it's all about the way you go about it, because guys' egos can get like really hurt if you say it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
But the way that like she asked this question, this person is like, it makes me think that whoever she's with is already there, but she might not be.
Yeah.
And I would honestly look to him for guidance and like read the scriptures read how to say.
I mean, Proverbs 31 is like the trending, I want to be a Proverbs 31 woman. And that's a great guide to like reflect on. I love to use the Bible as like a self-check, because it's a way to be like, am I on course? Am I on track? Because sometimes if you're new to your faith, it's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I want to be doing it, but I don't know how. And I think a lot of our listeners, you guys are in that position where it's newer to you and you're like, I want to be a godly like girlfriend, submissive wife, but like, how do I do that? What do I do? And again, you guys, all the answers are in the Bible. Is it going to take time to read it, understand it, have it make sense and click? Yes. But again, you're like in the right position if you're listening to this episode and you're trying to learn more. I found this article and it kind of like breaks down Proverbs 31. And the first one is that she is principled. So this is from the verse, a wife is a noble character who can find. And it's Proverbs 31:10. So she's principled. You just have your principles. The next one is she has a strong work ethic. I'm not going to go through all the verses because that shouldn't take forever, but I'm going to break down the basics. She has a strong work ethic. And I like this because I think a lot of times people assume godly women don't work hard. Like they just stay at home, they're submissive. But like it's a lot of work to run a household. If you are a stay-at-home mom, I feel like that's a pretty normal, more commonly seen in Christian like marriages is the mom stays at home. But it's because she's a provider in the home and like she is like a home caretaker. Yeah, she's a nurturer and she's like in that area. But again, too, it's not unbiblical to like be working out in the world, like in the corporate world, or having her own business or doing whatever. It's just a strong work ethic, I think, is admirable. And like a man seeks that in a woman too. And I think we forget that. I think we assume men are like the ones who work hard and they're driven. But in my opinion, it's like, and Kyla's expressed, it's like, it's attractive to like see a woman like have a passion and like have a work ethic regardless of what it is, because it shows too, like when you do have a family, she will be willing and able and equipped and know how to work hard for her family and to provide in the home, like cook meals and take care of the kids and get them where they need to be going and help, support their like husband. Those are all of those require a lot of hard work and a good work ethic. Like it's not easy to raise a family and to run a household. It's not easy to do that with a job. Like it's a trait that men do look for. And I think it is attractive regardless of if they're like, oh, I want to like have my wife stay at home. I don't want her to have to work. We're going to have to work hard in something. So developing that is important.
Like that's such like a misconception of the world's whatever. Because it's like, oh, well, you're a stay-at-home mom. It's like, do you know how much they have to do?
Yeah, that's a full.
Do you know how much they have to do?
Job.
Like that's like why that's the job.
Nannies exist. You know how hard of a job being a nanny is? You're literally just stepping in, taking the role of like being a mother, a house, like a home provider. So it's funny. Anyway, she's a good steward of her resources. This is important too. Like if you think about it, I always look in the lens of, I mean, we have like the Lord won't give us more until we can steward what we have. So it ties into like what God wants for us and tells us to like learn, but then also looking at it from like the man's perspective, it's like if he's gonna, I mean, when you're married, like what's his is yours, okay? So regardless of if you're making money or just him, it's like your income is shared at this point or in most relationships. So he has to have trust that you're going to control what you do have and what he's providing and bringing in, and also too what you like your home, if you can steward your home well and the goods that you have inside of your home. But if you can't do that with the things you have in your singleness season or your dating season, like that's going to be a red flag to the man. Like if I'm over here like irresponsibly spending and irresponsibly like treating my things poorly, it's like that's not going to be attractive to Kyler. He's going to be like, okay, she doesn't know how to like take care of what she has, how she can take care of the stuff that I provide, because he takes care of his stuff. So it's like out of respect, it just makes sense why like a man would be seeking that. And again, it's a lot of these like a flip too of like expectations, I think, for like a godly man. It's not going to be exactly like this, but like I like find it attractive if a man has a good work ethic, if a man can steward his things well. She's capable and able. The verse in this is in her hands she holds the staff and grasp the spindle with her fingers. So it's just, you are able to do the things that you're like called to fulfill, essentially.
Yeah.
You know?
You're obedient.
Yeah. She's a servant leader. I love this one. So the verse with this is, she opens her arms to the poor and extends the hands to the needy.
I love that.
I love this one because this is definitely, I mean, this just says a lot about, I think, a Christian in general. Like, a person pursuing the Lord should always be serving others, and can be a leader in that area as well. And I think it's really beautiful to like see women like take lead in that area, like serving the community. I mean, serving a friend, serving the church, serving your family. Like, you have to, like, the man's the leader of the household, but the mother also leads in a strong way as well. I think we also, that's
just in very different ways,
completely different roles. Yeah. But it says a servant leader, and I think like you also are serving your leader. You're serving your leader as the Lord, but you're also serving your leader as your husband. Yeah. And you need to be serving him, but then you need to be serving the needy. So it like branches into so many different aspects. It's a very,
but I also think as broad. Men don't always have not the heart, but like they don't have like a nurturer mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's why I've never really understood, no judgment, but like how guys can be like the man of the house and like the woman goes out and works. I'm like, it just has never really made sense in my brain.
God created us to like have like specific strengths, and he gave us like that nurturing
spirit for sure.
Spirit.
And that's just kind of like, I think what this is too, because it just makes sense that way. But I think, like I said before, it really takes you to be obedient to that, to like actually do it.
Yeah. Because we can have that, like, I mean, every woman, I feel like, has that in her heart. We're created to nurture, but it's taking that leadership step to actually go out and serve the needy, give the needy, make a meal for a family struggling, or a new family who just had a baby. Like, there's so many different areas you can serve. It doesn't have to be at a local food bank, you know? It doesn't have to be at your church. It should be, it can be, but it's like there's so many ways as a godly woman to serve. And I think it's so important to always have that at the forefront of your mind of how can I be serving? How can I be like leading in this area and like taking initiative too? Because if no one does it, like, no, it's not going to happen. I think for a family, like my mom did such a good job at this, but she always had us go with her to all these volunteering events. Like, we did Meals on Wheels with her, and that was like her thing, but she brought us along to just like expose us to it. We did Fly program where we'd hand out cold lunches to kids in the summer who didn't have a school lunch. Like, they were so the list goes on. Like, she's always done this, and I'm like, she's the perfect example of this. And I think that's why and you and your mom do a lot of that stuff as well. Like, it's just, when you as a mother expose your kids and your family to that, it plants so many seeds, and it makes it so much easier on us now that we're adults to have that heart. I think that's why our city group every month is to go serve at like a homeless shelter, or like a homeless meal
give out.
Yeah.
Feeding the homeless.
Yeah, we feed the homeless. So it's like, I think that's on our heart because it was placed upon our eyes as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Agree.
Anyway, the next one is that she places her family first. For when it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. So putting your family first, putting the Lord number one is always like, that's the way it should be. But then second is your family. It literally says to put your family first, but the Lord knows, like, we put him above all.
Yeah.
But just having your family's best intention at heart, like
which I feel like comes so naturally to women, for sure. Like, this, I don't even really think about, because I'm like, well, obviously that would be the case, but some people don't think like that. Yeah, that's totally fine.
Some people put their career first, or they put their values and their needs first, and that's just like not in scripture. That's like not what makes a godly woman. Like, if you're pursuing a godly woman, like, you just need to be putting your family first. But I think most of you guys, like, that is going to be your intention. But again, it's a good thing to reflect on every now and then, to be like,
yeah, for sure,
check yourself, be like, wait, have I been putting my family first? Because it's easy. There's so many needs in life that it's easy to put other things above it, you know, especially in the world we live in. The next one is, she is strong in mind, body, and soul. So she is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh of the days to come. So, I mean, that's just like an important.
Yeah, I think this is like an overall, like, well-rounded person.
Yeah.
Mind, like, you take care of yourself. You do the things that you need to do for yourself every single day. Your body, like you eat healthy, or you go to the gym, or you go on a walk or whatever. And then soul and spirit is like your like spiritual side of it. And so you are in your word, you have a relationship with God, whatever. Like I think it's like a well-rounded, you're just human.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that that's like the 3 keys to success for sure.
It's like it's just like self-care. You know, like you can't forget that. Like you have to put God first, and then you have to put your family second or first under God. But then it's like, then next comes like yourself as well. Like you can't, it's not godly of us to neglect ourselves and taking care of ourselves. Like God wants that for us. He wants us to have a strong mind, body, and soul. So also ensuring that you're doing that, you're just not putting that necessarily above, you know, your family, but to show up as the best version of you. Like I know that for me, I'm like, the reason I do what I do and train the way I train and eat the way I eat is so I can show up as the best version of Chloe for everyone else. So like I understand the impact of neglecting that and how it affects me, and then in turn affects the relationships in my life. So it's still like a very important thing that we can't neglect and forget about. But again, I personally would never put it above my family, but it's very high up there because I know my family suffers if that suffers. Anyway, she speaks with knowledge and understanding. This is just talking about the power of the tongue. You know, like if you hear a godly woman speak, it reminds me of the girls that we heard at the coffee shop.
They're so cute.
Last week.
They're so cute.
They just like the way they spoke and the tonality and the word choices. Like they had their Bibles on the table. I knew they were godly women, but just I knew by hearing them how strong they were in their faith.
Yeah, they were so cute.
It just, you can tell just based on like overhearing conversation. Just I think you guys know what I'm saying. Just the word choice and the fluidity of it, and how everything essentially reverted to their faith no matter the conversation. They didn't speak poorly on anyone. The way they were discussing things. I wasn't eavesdropping on everything, but I'm saying from what I heard and just based on other conversations, it's like a godly woman, you don't hear them like speaking poorly. You don't hear them gossiping. You don't hear them swearing. You don't hear them talking down on people. Like you show up with kindness and love in all like conversations, the way you talk to your spouse, the way you talk to your children, the way you talk to the grocery store clerk. Again, I think this is like hand in hand though with like expectations of a man as well. Like that's one thing I love about Jake and Kyler is they're so sweet in public. I always say, I'm like, they're such good examples. Like if someone were to not, if we weren't out in public with them, but they saw the boys, I'm like, they're like 2 people to be proud of because I know that they're treating everyone they encounter with like love and kindness, you know?
Yeah, they literally changed some guy's tire last week. They like sent us a picture. They're like, we were not late at the gym because we had to change some kid's tire.
Yeah, they just like went out of their way to do that at the gym parking lot as they were probably amped up on pre-workout, like itching to train. It was like 7:30 at night already.
They go to the gym so late.
Yeah. But like even last night, Kyler and I were at Sprouts, and just the like encounter he had with the grocery store like cashier, I left him like, you're so cute. I'm like, that was just like the sweetest. Like he was just above and beyond like kind to this woman. Like it was like 8:30 at night. It was late. She had like 2 hours left on her shift, and he's like, 2 more hours, you can do it. And like he's just like actively engaging in conversation. He's like, have a good night. Like, but it's so genuine, and I'm like, I know he does that when we're there and when we're not. You know? So again, it's like we want to be that example as well for them.
For sure.
As a woman, it's like we want our man to be trusting and knowing that we're leading with love and kindness in the world to other people, no matter if they're listening or if they're not. She is self-disciplined.
Pretty explanatory.
I mean, you can be self-disciplined in your faith. You can be self-disciplined in your values and your morals and your boundaries. You can be self-disciplined in your habits, the way you eat, the way you train, the way you move. You can be self-disciplined in the way that you parent. Like everything takes some sort of discipline. And it's easy to be undisciplined as well. But again, it's like when motivation lacks, discipline kicks in. We're not always going to be motivated to be the best woman and the best wife and the best mother. But it's going to take discipline every now and then. I just know. I mean, I'm not even there yet. I'm not a wife. I'm not a mother. But like seeing and hearing and being a witness to it, it's like, you know, there's just like a sense of discipline where you just have to bite your tongue, or you do just have to get up and do it, or you do just have to do the things you don't necessarily want to do, but you like need to do it to show up for your family, to show up for your husband, to show up for the Lord. you're not going to be motivated to do it all the time. Because right now it's like easy, like, oh, I can't wait to be the best wife, can't wait to be the best mother. But like when you're actually sitting in that moment, when it's 2 a.m. and you have to go feed your baby, or you got to drop your kids off,
it's hard.
Just 6 different practices throughout a week, and then you got to show up and make dinner and keep the house clean, or go work your job during the day too, and put a smile on your face. Like, it's even discipline to just smile and just be like,
when I'm having a hard
doing
day.
great, you know?
Yeah, literally.
That's something I'm struggling with. I'm like, on hard days, Kyler and me are like working on. I'm like, I it's part of my prayer right now is to just like find the joy in everything, find the good in everything, because it boosts my mood.
Yeah,
Because we're just hardwired to focus on the negatives and to show up negative and to dwell with the negatives. Like 70% of our thoughts are negative. Did you know that?
yeah.
So it's like, think how easy it is to fall into that headspace. It takes discipline to brush it off, to forget about it, to like move past it.
Your brain is like most of the time in like, it's not necessarily thinking, it's just doing what it's supposed, like,
yeah, it's like autopilot.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And so it actually takes like more focus to snap yourself out of that than to like actually be in it.
Yeah, totally.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And then the last one is she's God-fearing.
We kind of touched on this.
And that's just, that one.
Fear the Lord.
Fear the Lord.
Fear the Lord.
Every single day.
Anyway, so that's kind of the overview.
Yeah, we have a few more. That was like definitely the longest question.
Proverbs 31.
Yeah, but again, just check in with yourself on those. If you're questioning, am I like showing up? You can have these conversations with your partner, with your husband, with your boyfriend, whoever you're pursuing marriage with. You know, it's like, am I showing up in these ways? Like, have those honest conversations. They're hard, but if your boyfriend or your spouse is like, you know what? You need to be speaking differently. It's like, that's going to trigger something. And I promise you, you'll
do it.
You'll start doing it. And it's those uncomfortable conversations that grow your relationship.
Yeah.
We don't know what we don't know. So if we don't realize we're lacking one of these areas, and I feel like most people want to be pursuing those and be strong in those, but like sometimes you don't know you're lacking. So it takes that conversation and that trust in your partner to like call you higher.
Yeah.
And again, it's like a respectful thing. It's not bad. Like, I mean, your partner shouldn't be like ripping you apart and telling you all the negatives, but it's like if they are calling you out in one of these areas, typically it's for the better.
Yeah.
It's to call you higher. It's not to insult you.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is about how to trust the Lord in his timing to deliver you your significant other. I think this just boils down to having faith. Truly.
Yeah, I just saw a TikTok that was like, thank goodness I always like prayed the prayer when I started like talking to someone. I was like, Lord, if this isn't for me, like take it away.
Yeah.
Which is like the scariest thing you could ever say. Yeah. I was like, you really like this person and this, that, and the other. But she was like, if I would have never done that, I would have been probably still with the first person.
Yeah.
And like wouldn't have the marriage or the relationship I do now.
Yeah. Every wrong person leads you one person closer to like the person God has intended for you.
Yeah.
But again, like those relationships too could be sent from the Lord to like teach you something.
Yeah. I also think like dating gets such a bad rep nowadays. Like, oh, well, she dated this many people or whatever. It's like, I think everything is like a trial and error to get you to where you are now. Like, I would not be as emotionally intelligent or mentally intelligent if I like hadn't had the 2 relationships that I did prior to like being with Jake. And like, there's nothing I can do about them now. Yeah. Like, and he had a girlfriend. I don't really know much about it, but like, obviously that helped him in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. No,
so it's like, it sucks kind of, but it's like, okay, you got to do what you got to do. Yeah. Like, every single thing gets you to where you're supposed to be. I think in your 20s, in your late teens, early 20s, whatever, like dating is like a good thing. Like, go on dates with people or go meet people or whatever. Like, do it smartly, godly, whatever, if that's what you're trying to pursue. But I think the more you know about yourself or more what you don't want in someone else or what you do want in someone else, you learn by doing that.
Yeah, totally.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I think like it gets such a bad whatever. But like if you go on a date with someone, like you're going to know probably
you're gonna
right away and be like,
it, though, you know,
yes or no.
It's not a boyfriend. Like, you're not gaining necessarily a significant other. You're still gaining something from that because you probably learned about a value or a boundary or something you like or you didn't like in a partner, and you can utilize that to put towards like your next relationship.
Yeah.
Like, It's so true because between like my long-term relationship and Kyler, there was like a few random guys I didn't fully date, but it's like I was grateful for each one of those because they taught me so much about what I wanted and it truly led me to Kyler. And it makes me appreciate things about Kyler too that I'm like, dang, like no guy's ever done this and I really appreciate that. Or I was missing this in that relationship and you fulfill that and I'm really grateful for that. But again, the timing thing, now that I'm 23, like I'm in my early 20s, but a lot of my friends are like in their late 20s and they're single and they're stressing, but it's like and I'm not in that position. So it's easier said than done, but it's truly boils down to having faith in God's plan that he will deliver the right person in the right time because everything is so intentional. Like if you're not ready to have a husband, like you meet people, you can only meet someone to the level like
that you're
at yourself. So it's like, just continue to deepen and pursue the Lord and yourself and develop that because the more you do that, the higher like level of a man you'll meet. Like
you have to, if you're the person that you want to find.
Yeah, if you're a more godly woman, then you're going to be a more godly man. And so it's like have that positive outlook on it and just trust in his plan and surrender everything to the Lord too. I think that's important. Like when you are dating, it's like, Lord, I surrender this to you. If it's for me, great. If it's not, take it away.
Yeah.
I've done that even in my relationship with Kyler. That was the scariest freaking thing ever because like my flesh wants to be in this, but if God doesn't want me to be in this, like you can take it away. And it ruffled some things up, but it uncovered a lot and it was for the good.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, like you're kind of like being on for dear life of like what's happening. And I'm like, oh, God's like working, but it's a sign that like God is chiseling in a good way.
Yeah.
He's prepping us for marriage. He's prepping us for these things. He's teaching us about each other. He's putting us ourselves still through this developmental phase that I think is important and I think is missed a lot in like the dating season. We just rush to marriage, but dating is so intentional. I talked about it last week and I'm not going to get into that whole rabbit hole again, but it's like just trust in his timing of like when that person's placed into your life and who's placed into your life because it's all for the good.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. How can my partner, we already talked about that. Build a foundation within Christ. Actually, the reason I screenshotted this was because we kind of talked about it last week of like having God at the center.
Yeah.
But I think having God at the foundation is different than having it at the center. Like think of a house, something's in the center or versus the foundation.
Yeah.
I think foundation to me, it's like what you build upon. So it's like
where you start versus like what you continue to have.
Yes, exactly. And one thing Kyler and I, at the very beginning, like we took things very slow and he talks about it all the time. We were literally talking about it, like the other day, like a few days ago, because we were talking about like where we're at and like past relationships. And it was just a kind of a conversation based upon this whole podcast that I didn't even know we were going to talk about. It came out of the blue. But he was like, Chloe, if we hadn't built the foundation we had, like, I don't know if we'd still be together. Like we learned so much in that first, because we took like 4 months to date and like it was hard for me because I'm like, why is it taking so long? Like, I'm getting impatient. I was starting to question myself and the timing of everything. But it was like that slow burn built so much of a foundation in our relationship because it allowed us to take the time to really go through life, go through challenges, go through hardship, go through the highs and the lows and really get to know each other, see the good and the bad side of each other, and learn how to build upon that because it's easy to build on something that's like sunshines and rainbows the first month or two. It's like you're always gonna show up as your best self, but like that starts to diminish after so many days. Like you can't always hide what's truly like God brings to light what's underneath always. And so I think over time that was happening for the both of us. We're really beginning to see each other for who we really are. And we were able to build upon that. So it's like the slow burn built that solid foundation because we took it so slow that it gave ourselves time to like fully develop who we were, how we could build together. And then we were able to build up. I'm such a visual. So it's like I see it coming together, but in my mind, it's like, and it's like I'm so grateful for that. So like don't be afraid to take things slow. I think a lot of Christians there's two sides to it. A lot of Christians they date really quick and they get married really quick because it's like they have their morals, their values, they're really in tune with God. And if it's the person, they don't hesitate. But I don't think that's for everyone. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying that doesn't have to be like the one size fits all for every relationship. It's okay to take it slow and build that foundation. And I think that foundation is getting to know each other, getting to know the Lord, learning to pray together, learning to pursue and like, make sure your values are aligned, make sure your boundaries are aligned, because it's easy to say it, but it's one thing to like do it and live it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the foundation's built, is like when you're starting to experience those things, they either align or they don't. It's like if the pieces are fitting together to build that foundation or they're not.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's going to be compromise, there's going to be lessons, and you can like work to make them fit.
Yeah.
Because all the pieces don't fit, I don't think, perfectly right away, but it's like a matter of if you can learn how to piece them together or if you can't.
Yeah. It's going to take effort from both sides. Like it can't be a one-sided thing. It never will be a one-sided thing. So you both have to be in it to win it at this point. Like, you have to sit down and be like, okay, is this really what we want to do? It's like when you sit down and you're like, do we really want to buy a new house? Do we want to buy a new car? Do we really want to have a kid right now? It's like, we both need to be on the same page. Like, if this is what we're going to do, we need to do it. And that's where I think a lot of people go wrong, because one wants to do only because the other person wants to do it. And we talked about this last week. We're not going to get into that again, but you both have to be willing and able to chase the same goal. Yeah. Running at the same pace together.
Totally.
That same race, same pace.
Literally to a T. That's so good, because there's so many intricate things I think we forget at the beginning of a relationship, because they're not important at the beginning, but they do become important. Like, I was talking to my friend who's married, and we were just talking about how I'm like looking for a car right now, and I'm like seeking Kyler's guidance and assistance in this. But I'm like, it's so funny because we're not married. So like, we haven't been like, here's my bank account, here's how much money I make. Like, we haven't talked about those specifics.
Yeah.
But like, leading into marriage, like, you have to have that conversation. Like, we're going to have to talk about that before we get married to make sure we're aligned. And that foundation is there, because that's like another tier. It's like a floor in the house that like has to still be built of like, this is what I make. These are my spending habits. These are my like, there's just a whole another layer to uncover. And that's like comes with time. Like, again, it's not something you need to be talking about in the first 6 months to a year of your relationship. But when things start to get serious, you start making decisions, because it's like this car decision that I'm making. There's certain financial decisions, and if you like write things off, whatever, it affects like my income, and then that affects the ability to get a loan. But then it's like, that can affect my ability to buy a home in the future. And I'm like, that actually affects Kyler. So it's like, I have to think about all these decisions of, it is just for me. It's my money, my car. But again, it's not possibly just affecting me now. It could be affecting in a few years if Kyler and I want to buy a house together. Like, that affects him. And if I can't get a loan because my income looks low because I wrote off my car, like, these are things you have to think about.
Yeah.
In the dating season, and it's just so crazy. Anyway, that had nothing to do with building a foundation, but I just thought, like, had that conversation yesterday, it blew my mind. I'm like, you no longer can be selfish about every decision.
I was the same way. I mean, I just got a dog, and I was like, okay, well, this dog's gonna be alive for 10 years. Like, we're gonna be together in 10 years. Like, is this like something that like you are gonna be okay with? And he was like, yeah, like, whatever. We had a whole conversation about it, but like, it wasn't something that like, obviously it's my decision, my dog, my life, my house right now.
Yeah.
But definitely something that you have to,
because at one point, what's yours will be his.
Yeah.
So that dog will be your dog, but it's going to become his responsibility and his like financial responsibility at some point too. Like, the dog food cost is your cost right now, but when y'all get married, like, that's coming out of like your fund. That's his cost now. So it is like something where you have to be thinking futuristically if you are pursuing a marriage.
Yeah.
So anyway, this question will finish on, this is a big question too. It's how to stay patient in the waiting season. And this is kind of what we talked about earlier, but I think it just really boils down to having your focus on the right things in the waiting season of developing myself, like, if you focus on developing rather than waiting, it makes the waiting easier.
Yeah. I was going to say, what was the word I was just going to use? Like, if you're focusing on falling, okay, how do I think about this? When like the boys are really busy with work, and like I can think about like, oh, I haven't seen him in a couple days, or oh, we haven't done this in a while, or we haven't done this in a while. It's like, that's all you're thinking about.
Yeah.
But when I really sit back and I'm like, well, I could be doing this for myself, and I could go do this for myself, and I could do this, then you like fall more in love with like doing things for yourself.
Yeah.
Or like having time alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could just shift your mindset.
It's your whole perspective on it. It's if you make it seem like this daunting period of time, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be like, why am I alone? I'm lonely, I'm sad. But if you look at it as like, this is like the one small little period of time in my life that I can be completely selfish and independent, and I can do everything for myself without having those responsibilities. Like, heck, if I didn't know Kyler and I was buying a car right now, I would not be thinking about the impact it could be making on him. You know, I'd be buying the freaking Mercedes that I want to buy. Like, it would be so different. So take advantage of the opportunity that you have in this period of your life, because it's such in the grand scheme of your life, you guys, the period of being single is so small and so minor. Like, if you get married and spend the rest of your life with someone, you're together for probably 60 plus years.
Crazy.
God willing that we live to be like 80 plus, but it's like most people are together for about 60 years. So you're 4, 5, 6, maybe you're single and you're 18 and you've never dated, or you're 20 and you've never had a boyfriend. That's still a third that's a third of like the time you'll be with somebody. That's only 33%. So it's such a small period of time, but most people date throughout. And it's like, in the grand scheme of my life, one, I don't remember up until about 10. I started dating someone at 14. I've pretty much been dating somebody since, like, on and off. I've had a 2-year window where I was single, but I was still dating around. So it's like, 2 years is so small in the grand scheme of my whole life. So it's like, work on the perspective and utilize that time to pursue. Like, I grew the strongest in my faith when I was single. And now I'm like able to grow. Like, I guess I had the most like, no, I guess I don't know if I want to say that, but I could have the most like selfish time for the Lord, because I could devote more time to him.
Yeah.
But now, like, in a relationship, it's just like your time is broken up differently and divided differently. So just look at it as a positive. I know it's hard, but like, I've been there. So like, I'm not speaking from a side of she doesn't get it. Like, I get it. Yeah. I was so impatient, and it has its highs and its lows. Like, it's not easy all the time. I wasn't always like, steady. Oh, I'm always working on myself. Like, there were moments where I was sad and lonely for sure. Yeah. But again, it's like those moments you can take advantage of and be like, all right, well, I have the Lord. Like, I'm not as lonely because like God is always with you.
I have my Heavenly Father.
Yeah. And you gotta really trust in him that like his timing is perfect, and be praying for your future husband in that time, you know?
Maybe you haven't gotten anybody yet because you're not where you need to be. Like, maybe he needs you to be alone with him for a while. Yeah. Or you need to find your calling first, or you need to be confident, or whatever it is. Like, maybe really sit down and be like, all right. Yeah. What's going on? Like, have an evaluation with yourself, have a prayer night with yourself, have whatever. Just, it will all happen like when it's supposed to happen. And when you stop looking, it always happens.
I think when you stop looking, you start looking inward, and that's when all the growth happens. And then that's when the Lord's like, hey, you're ready. Like, you're prepared. Because I always would ask myself towards the end of my relationship, or not my relationship, towards the end of my single season, and I think this is why it was close to the end, is because I finally started asking myself, like, if I met a man equally yoked to myself, would I be fulfilled and happy with that person? Like, would I want to date me? And for a while, like at the beginning of the time I started asking myself that, the answer was no. But then I slowly took action, actually very quickly took action, because I was like alarmed at that thought. And I was like, dang, I don't want to be dating myself. Like, I don't want to be dating someone who's like a version of me. So I bettered myself. And then I met Kyler, and I was like, whoa. So think about it like that.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. Anyway.
Wow. You did most of the talking today. I'm like, I was kind of sitting here, but.
Me thinking I was going to be tired in the morning, but I'm like, actually, I think I'm primed in the mornings. I'm actually like not primed at night. But I'm kind of tired.
Neither one of us are.
I just get so fired up about some topics, because like when you've experienced things, it's so hard for me not to be like so passionate when
I was the same way. I'm just kind of letting you do your thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, we love Q&As. I feel like they don't ever really end up in Q&As. They just kind of end up in a sermon anyway.
I know.
Oh, it's so good.
Again, I always say God put me through it so I could tell it to you guys. I'm like, it's all for a purpose, and I don't want you all to go through what I went.
You said I didn't go through it for nothing.
Exactly. That's what I would. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about it. Because it's like, you won't make the mistakes that I did. Like, hear me out.
No, literally.
But
no, literally.
Christian relationships are like the best things ever. So I'm excited for y'all to be in love with your man of God, because
it's so fun.
It's the best. It really is the best, and it's worth the wait.
It really is.
And it's so, like, believe it or not, it is. It makes like the wait makes it even better too.
Time, you know, sure. Yeah, good things take time.
But
so yeah, that's all kind of we have for you guys today. But we'll have to pre-film some episodes because I'm going out of town.
Yeah,
so
our lives
let us
a little crazy.
What you guys want to hear. We have some topics in mind after we wrap up this whole thing that we're doing now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're probably gonna be filming them like this next week. So let us know.
Let us know.
Let us know. Send us a DM.
Okay. We'll see you next week, and we'll see you in heaven.